Hello, I'm Natasha Gutierrez. Welcome to Talk Thursday. After repeatedly rejecting constitutional amendment, President Benigno Aquino reversed his stand. He is no longer entirely close to charter change. His recent clash with the Supreme Court over the administration's spending program leads him to think there is an imbalance of power in favor of the judiciary. The 1987 Constitution prohibits the president from seeking re-election, yet Aquino defers to public clamor for a second term. The topic divides the Congress, some are for it, some against. Joining us today are Representatives Edgar Erice of Caloocan and Sherwin Gatchalian of Valenzuela. Erice is a known supporter of constitutional amendment, referring to political provisions, while Gatchalian is more of a supporter of economic provisions. Both of them will discuss the pros and cons of charter change. Welcome to Rappler, Congressman Erice and Gatchalian. Thank you for joining us. Okay, I want this to be more of a discussion. Obviously, you both have disagreements in certain issues, but let's start with you telling us your reactions when you first heard of the president's statement.
Actually, before the president told us he's changing his mind, I already espoused the idea of allowing the president to have a second term.
This president in particular, or just you had
President
a problem
Aquino.
with? Okay,
President
Aquino.
I remember that I was quoted by a newspaper saying that seldom that a country can find a leader who's so selfless, dedicated to reforms.
Okay.
So you must take advantage of such kind of leader, and I think President Aquino is such kind of a leader.
So when he said he was possibly open to a second term, what was your reaction?
Well, I felt that I had to push for it.
That was the push. That was the push. Okay.
For me, Natasha, I was a little bit surprised, because from the onset, when the president assumed his mandate, he was very categorical in saying that he will not seek for a re-election. In fact, he mentioned many times that he's just waiting the day, or the hour, and the minutes and the seconds he will be in Malacanang and relinquishing his post. But I was a little bit surprised, because that's a 180-degree turnaround. Although he didn't really say that he wants to amend the Constitution and run again. But there are insinuations of maybe he would seek for a re-election. I'm following this topic very intently, and I don't know if Kong Erice will have the same opinion, but for me, there are two main reasons why there is supposedly a clamor to change the Constitution. One is the balance of power, and this reason came about after the ruling of the Supreme Court on the DAP, which I think is really a very is a knee-jerk reaction, to what the Supreme Court ruled, and for me, if this will be a reason, it's a very scary reason, because you're now tinkering with the check and balances of the Constitution. I've been reading a lot from different parts, from lawyers, from constitutionalists, and you will get a lot of resistance if this is the main reason why to change the Constitution.
Okay.
The other one is really what Congressman Erice said, is to continue the reforms that the president started. This is a matter of opinion, and a matter of I guess to a certain extent, a matter of political delineation, because of course, Kong Erice, as part of the Liberal Party, he would really, think that way, But on the other side of the coin, the other guys who are not with the Liberal Party might have a different idea. So, no, it's really a topic that we should really follow and analyze.
So, I mean, the president himself in an interview acknowledged it's dangerous territory to touch the Constitution at all. We know you're not completely opposed to it. There are certain provisions that you'd like to see changes in. Could you both talk about that? Is it possible to maybe open just a part of a Constitution? And how would that process even be? I mean, obviously, just within two people here, there's so much disagreement already.
I think so. Even the United States government has amended their constitution several times. So why not the Philippines? Our constitution It's been promulgated 27 years ago. So, marami ng pagbabago. Noon, wala pang cellphone. Ngayon, meron ng grabe ng technology. Dati ang China noon, mahirap na bansa. Ngayon, may problema tayo. One of the strongest nations in the world. So, dapat yung Constitution nakakasagot sa tawag ng panahon.
Correct. Okay.
So, I don't think that there's something wrong if we amend certain provisions of the Constitution. And it will really be very hard to amend it because it will be either through a constituent assembly or through a 3/4 vote of the House and 3/4 vote of the Senate voting separately. Parang dadaan sa karayom niya.
Right.
May plebiscito pa.
May plebiscito pa.
So what makes this time different then? What makes you think that what makes it different from the past times when there's been a push for charter change?
It's really very important to, sabi nga ng Pangulol, pakinggan natin yung mga boss natin. So if I floated this idea, then let's have a national debate on this issue so that we will know the opinion of the people. What's important here is not the politicians, not the commentators. What's important here is the real voice of the people, and there are many ways of knowing them after a national debate on this matter.
Okay.
For me, Natasha, aside from those two reasons I mentioned earlier, no, there must be a very compelling reason why we would allow the current president to run again, no, and eventually amend the Constitution. And for me, the very compelling reason is not about politics, no. It's not about party lines, no. It's really hitting the heart of the problem of this country. And the heart of the problem of this country is poverty, no. And poverty is measured in many, many ways, no. But the two most important measure really is looking at the poverty incidence rate and the unemployment rate. These are undisputed numbers. You cannot jumble around these numbers. These are evidences that will point whether the country is going to the right direction or not. And time immemorial, looking at the numbers, our poverty incidences had never gone down. No? It will fluctuate up and down at 24%, meaning about 24 million Filipinos are below poverty rate. If you talk about food threshold or subsistence incident rate, now we're talking about 10 million Filipinos who cannot afford to buy their food. And this has fluctuated over the last 3 years.
Okay.
In short, it has never gone down. The second is unemployment. Unemployment in the last 3 years has fluctuated also. It will go down, go up, but on the average, it's hovering around 7%. And that's the highest in the Southeast Asian region. So if you take these two into account, for me, what is the most compelling reason then to allow the current administration to run again? If the heart of the problem is not being met, not being addressed.
Well, that's a problem, We have to provide continuity in programs of government.
Yes, okay.
I think 6 years is very short for a good president.
Okay.
The president is laying the foundation. We are now the fastest growing economy in Southeast Asia. Our credit rating is BBB, and I heard that in a few weeks' time we will be BBB+. Our poverty incidence decreased by 3% during the time of
In 4
President
years.
Arroyo and President Estrada. Ang baba ng poverty incidence is 0.3, 0.2%.
Okay.
So, yung magti-trickle down sa masa, sa mga mahihirap, itong mga programa nito, after a certain time. And I don't think 6 years is enough. The president is only 4 years in office. Pero ang binabaliktad niya, what he is reversing is 21 years of corruption of Marcos, 10 years of Gloria, and 2 years of Vera. Yan lahat binabaliktad niya. Yung bürokrasya nakadisenyo dyan sa korupsyon ng mga panakaraang administrasyon. And it will take time to reverse that. The bureaucracy is bigger than the president. And he will really need time. And if we will fail to continue the reform efforts of the president, then we will go back.
Okay. Congressman Gatchalian, if there is public clamor, would you change your mind?
I think we have to look at this again. No, I always look at the evidences and the numbers, and going back to Congressman Reese's statement earlier that the country has been growing, no, on the last few years. Maybe with this administration, on the average of about 6.5%. No, two of the major credit rating agencies upgraded us to investment grade. No, but let me just make this statement: not all growth are good growth. No? There's such a thing as quality of growth, and in the past few years, if just harping on this administration, the inequality of our rich and poor has never gone down. There's this index; it's called the Gini Coefficient. No?
Yes.
And over the past 3 years, it has stagnated into 44%. So meaning, there's an argument that's not going down, but it's not improving. It's not going up, but it's not going down also. So what's happening with this growth actually is the rich is getting richer, and the poor is stagnating, and to some extent is getting bigger, no? Especially on the lower income bracket. No? That's why all of this, for me, there has to be evidences that will compel us, no, and the public to change the constitution and allow this president or this administration to continue. But for me, right now, looking at all these evidences, parang wala no?
Okay.
Parang kulang no? I don't think a status quo again, no, in the next 6 years, no, will be beneficial to the country.
Do you think 6 years is enough for a president, for any president to make?
Definitely not. No, I agree. No, I agree with Kong Arisa. I was a mayor for 9 years, and even in your own locality, alam ni Egeto, he was a vice mayor
more
also.
Country, yeah.
The problems are really staggering. But on the other side of a coin, no, maybe, no, a 6 years, maybe 6 years might be too short for a good president. But if you amend that and extend that, 6 years can be too long naman for a
corrupt official.
Corrupt officials. Then what do we do again? Do
Exactly.
we go back
That's why my proposal is two terms of 4 years.
So he needs a re-election. Just like the
4
US.
years is too long for a bad president, but it's too short for a good president. So he can be re-elected for another 4 years if you're good.
To the model of the United States,
Yes.
basically. 8
Actually,
years.
yung gobyerno natin, pattern under the US government. Nagkaroon lang ng pagbabago after martial law.
Okay. So 8 years. Is this?
Well, it's something to
feasible
talk
time.
about. No? It's something to talk about. I really don't have a specific comment on that. It's something to talk about. There's rationale why the US is doing that. No? But
Yes.
Even if, for example, the president wouldn't agree to run again, I still push for an
Okay.
two-term, 4-year
Okay.
presidency.
Okay.
But I think the framers also took note of the institutional imbalances and integrity of our country. That's why they limited it to 6 years.
Okay.
In the US, they allowed to have 4 years and your election of another 4 years because the institutions there are very strong. No? The president cannot abuse his power no,
The
to
checks and
perpetuate
balances.
again and use the funds of the government to campaign. Where here in our country, sad to say, no, and this is a reality, the institutions are very weak and it's prone to politics. That's why the framers of the Constitution in the past just allowed no, to have 1 6-year term. No? Because if we allow 2 4 years, no, pagdating niya ng third year, now what will stop him from using the government funds, from using the government machinery, from exerting influence over the mayors, over the governors, to help him campaign for the next term?
re-election,
No? It's political instinct, Natasha. So the framers recognized that weakness, no. And I'm very happy that over time that these institutions are getting stronger, but we're not in that stage
Not
yet.
right now, you
Not
think?
right now.
Okay.
Not right now.
Okay.
Oh, just basic lang. Even our election process, no, is not perfect. Every year in and year out, there are accusations of cheating, accusations of machines malfunctioning. So it's not perfect yet. Unlike in the United States, where it's perfect. No, the current president cannot abuse its power to perpetuate himself. These are very different scenarios.
Okay.
Well, the President Marcos did not use the Constitution in the perpetuation of power, but he declared martial law. Actually, the martial law provision in our Constitution is no longer there. So I don't think any president, even 2 terms, can perpetuate himself using a Constitution.
Why does it have to be a term extension? Why can't it just be, let's keep it within the party so we can continue the reforms? That is why I think a lot of people are also doubting it. We have to admit that the timing is a little suspect. We're in 2014, 2 more years left. The Liberal Party right now does not have a viable candidate compared to the Vice President.
No, we have, I would, I think President Aquino is the best president that we ever had, and he's too young to retire. He's only 54 years old. So, palagay ko, pwede pa siya. Pero kung talagang ayaw ng mga boss, ayaw ng mga mamamayang Pilipino, we still have the second best, Secretary Marroas. At palagay ko naman, hindi mananalo ang una sa Liberal Party sa 2016 election.
NPC ako
Have there been any discussions with the NPC about this? About
the charter change?
Yes, about the
No.
second.
There's no official pronouncement yet. We still need to convene our members. But going back to what Congressman Reese has said, I think if you look at the other side of the coin, Natasha, poverty really is an intergenerational problem. No one 6-year president can solve poverty. Even the next president, impossible yan. No, he's not God. No, he's not going to create miracles. No? Unless we discover oil and gas, then baka pwede. But if on all things equal, it's impossible. No, it's an intergenerational problem. Having said that, the fundamentals should be laid down in every administration, including this administration. And I'm happy, that some of the fundamentals are there. For example, I believe CCT is a fundamental.
Okay.
Other congressmen might say otherwise, but I really believe it's a fundamental program to fight intergenerational poverty. But the last 2 years of the president can be really used to fight this intergenerational poverty. How? A lot of the legislation needs political will.
correct.
And since the president is not seeking for re-election or cannot seek for re-election, he can use these last 2 years to push for extremely vital reforms in legislation. And what are those? The Fair Trade Act. The Fair Trade Act is supposed to regulate all of these utilities, all of these big businesses. We know how big business can lobby in in Congress. Another thing is the modernization of the customs. Of course, again, customs by its sheer size is a political force. And any president or any legislation that will touch customs is a political it's a political issue. The other one is economic reforms of the Constitution. Again, that demands a lot of political will. So, because the president can no longer run for re-election, maybe it's best to just use the last 2 years to really crunch on those reforms. And hopefully, we build those fundamentals that will fight that intergenerational poverty.
Okay.
I don't think that political will be diminished by running into elections. This President Aquino, instituted a lot of political reforms, bold reforms. For example, the RH law, the sin tax. So kahit na tatakbo si Presidente, hindi mababawasan yung kanyang political will para isulong yung mga reforma. At makikita natin yan, even in the Bureau of Customs, even in the DPWH. Dati ang DPWH is the most corrupt agency in government. Ngayon, matino. Makakapal ang mga konkretong kalsada, mura ang presyo. So, ang importante dito yung continuance of the Tuwid na Daan program, and I don't think that 6 years is enough to do it all. So I think bigyan pa natin ng 4 years ang ating Pangulo.
Natasha, kami ni Egay were both candidates. When we run for re-election, we become from public servants to candidates. And the psyche of the candidate is very, very different.
Correct.
And once you seek for that re-election position, you totally change.
Okay.
No, your policies change, your programs change, your direction change. The simple objective is to win, and you have to do whatever it takes to win. No? And that's what I fear, that if the president becomes a candidate, no, this is my own opinion, Egay, the dynamics will change. No? And that is something that will, I think, will be detrimental to fighting poverty.
Okay.
Of course, there will be changes in the attitude, but major policies, in terms of major policies, palagay ko hindi magbabago ang Pangulo. In fact, natatandaan ko, there's one very popular person, hindi ko na sasabihin ko na yung pangalan, na gusto sumama sa Liberal Party. Very popular, pinag-aagawan. Pero the president doesn't want him.
Okay.
So, ganun katindi ang paniniwala ko sa Pangulo pagdating sa pagsusulong ng mga reforma.
And Congressman Gatchalian just mentioned specific bills, no, that still need passing. I mean, for instance, there's so much clamor for freedom of information bill. There's just so much things, I think, that are still needed to be done. Do you think then this push for charter change is just going to distract from this, as we saw in the Ramos administration?
We can do it simultaneously.
Do we?
Yes.
You think we could be effective?
We have time, and we have the numbers.
And in
The coalition in the House have the numbers. If you want to push for this bill, this proposal, we can do it. We have plenty of time.
in the past, charter change has been divisive. What makes us think it's not going to be that way this time around?
Well, that's why I'm pushing for a national debate, because I believe that legislators, politicians, will eventually heed to what the people wants.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the time frame of things, no, regarding to talk about charter change, Natasha, when the economic provisions were being discussed, there was a lot of resistance, no, in the beginning.
Right.
But when Speaker Belmonte promised, no, that it will be limited to the economic provisions, everyone toned down, no? And everyone started opening their mind, including myself. No? Although I don't agree on the land ownership, no, the foreign land ownership provision of that. No, I think that will really negatively impact our agriculture. But the other provisions, like opening up, no, of the other industry, I agree on that. No. My point there is that promise of Speaker De Monte, the credibility is very important. When you talk about amending the Constitution, the credibility is important. And when you talk about the credibility, the objective is very important. What is your objective? No? What is your objective? That's why when you talk about constitutional change, it's a very touchy subject to everyone.
Yes.
And to a certain extent, no, it's really divisive, because from the academe, no, from Congress, from the ordinary Filipino, will all talk about that, because that will affect their future. No, that will affect their future. That's why in this case, again, no, credibility is very important. No? I think the president should, just to talk about this openly, the president should really lay out his reasons, no, for amending the Constitution and extending term limits. He should really spell out his objectives, and very, very importantly, the goal. No, in my case, the goal in fighting poverty. What are those? Because the compelling reasons are not there.
You just said credibility is very important. Have you thought about why, the motive behind the president saying this? Have you ever thought that perhaps he doesn't want to be a lame duck in the last 2 years, precisely because he wants to push for reforms, hence the talk of a possible second term?
Actually, the idea of term extension didn't just came from me or any politician. It came from the social media. So we're just espousing this so that we will really know what's the people's take on this.
Have you had done commission surveys?
Yes, yes.
And they all show support for the president's second term?
We're doing it now.
You're doing it now.
Yeah.
How about before these statements were made? What
Well,
were these
the
based on?
informal surveys, and it's very positive.
Informal surveys in terms of
Actually,
online.
I did a consultation last Tuesday in my district.
How did that go?
Well, I invited the Rotary principals of public schools, the Muslim community. I invited the chambers, the Filipino Chinese and the Filipino Chamber, I invited student leaders from universities in my district.
What was the sentiment overall?
90%.
90.
90% are for the president be given another term.
Do you
of
see the same
office.
thing?
I haven't really conducted any formal survey or anything. I'm waiting for, the usual surveyors to do that. I'm sure they will do that. So, but I agree with Congressman Risa that consultation is very important in this case. That's why I love the president when he says, "I want to listen to his boss." No?
Okay.
And I hope that listening really cascades down to everyone,
Okay.
and objectively. No? And as to the mode, I really don't know how to do that. No, but one thing for sure is very important here. It's not only siguro listening whether they agree or not, but again, what are the goals for this extension of second term? Because I don't believe in status quo. We will never fight poverty because of status quo. So I think the objective should be very, very clear.
Okay. If you listen to the president's interview, actually, he did say he's open, but he didn't say he was pursuing it
Yes.
necessarily. What he was more adamant about, however, was reforms in the judiciary. How do we feel about this? Is this something we at least agree on? Is this divisive between both of you?
I'm not a lawyer, but there's one thing in the Supreme Court decision that bothers me, and that's the definition of savings. They define savings, and the Constitution has not defined savings.
Nor does
And
the Congress
think,
has not defined savings.
I think it's the term of the legislature. So I think it's a judicial legislation.
Okay.
I think, Natasha, we have to look at the timing also, because this plays a very critical role in the whole scheme of things. The DAP was just ruled unconstitutional. The president was clearly upset. He came out on TV and said all those things. And then later on, there's a clamor to extend his term. And the reason was because the Supreme Court is getting more powerful, at least in his eyes.
Okay.
This is very scary for me. It's very, very scary for me because we're now tinkering the balance of power. For politicians, for rich people who can hire lawyers, okay lang yun, you can defend yourself. But what about the poor people? What about the poor people who are looking at institutions to protect them? What about the ordinary Filipino who's looking for the law to protect them? This is the most important aspect. And I think tinkering with the balance of power is very dangerous. Unless, again, I'm going to say this with the coletilla, unless the reasons are very, very clear,
Okay.
And very, very solid. Without that, it's a very dangerous game.
Okay.
There's no formal proposal yet
Yes.
on the judicial provisions, provisions in the judiciary. So maybe we can still wait for that time for the president to clarify things.
That said, how serious do you think this initiative for charter change is? Have you thought that perhaps this is just
Alam mo, Natasha, one good thing that's happening now, whether you're pro or you're con,
There are
is
discussions.
democracy is
Yes.
Yes.
alive.
There's a debate clearly
and
from this
kicking
table alone.
in this country.
And
That's a good thing.
Yes.
And
You have to appreciate that.
I also told that I will not meddle with the economic provisions. I will let
Okay.
it go because it was already approved in the committee level.
Yes.
So I'll just let the political amendments go through the process of committee discussions and committee hearings.
When discussions reach the period of amendments regarding economic provisions, is it possible that you would move to amend provisions in term
No,
extensions
I will
as
not
well?
do it.
Okay.
It's a pass break.
And you will do the whole
I
process.
don't like pass breaks.
Well, again, we go back to the issue of credibility. I think Kong Erisa is very knowledgeable that when you start doing insertions,
Yes,
yes, yes,
shortcuts,
yes, yes.
then you lose the whole credibility
Yes.
issue.
We actually have a question for Congressman Erisa on Twitter from Ted Tuvera, or at Ted the Kuy. Are you on the run for the Senate in 2016?
No. Ang kalookan lang ako.
I mean, if people ask you this, perhaps you have political aspirations,
No,
hence
no.
the push for the president. That was actually our question.
Nakataga-Caloocan.
Ano eh, I will be the campaign manager of Congressman Sherwin Gatchalian
Wow.
in Caloocan.
Okay. Let's actually, we're finishing up, we're wrapping up. Can you just, if there's one message that you wanted people watching today to take away from this, either would you want to convince them that a second term is right, or is it going to be a softer message in terms of, if you want this, let your voices be heard? And for you as well, you could choose either to, convince people why perhaps it's not a good idea, or just what message would you like people to take away?
Well, there's only one argument for another term, and that is the integrity, selflessness, and dedication of President Aquino. Kasal sa bayan si Presidente. At wag muna nating hiwalayan yung isang magaling na Pangulo.
Well, for me, Natasha, I hope the public is not disappointed with all this hula baloo. No? It's really democracy at work, and you hear good arguments from Kong Arise. I try to state my arguments also, but these are for people to decipher. No? These are for people to see if this charter change really improve their lives in the long run. No? I said this many times. No? The evil of this country is poverty, and we need someone who can fight poverty. Maybe not in the short term, but lay down the fundamentals to fight it in the future. No? I think this administration has the best chance to become the ultimate noble statesman, to become selfless, no? As what Kong Arisa said, by laying down the groundwork for the next president to be able to do his job well, no? Whoever that may be. No? I think it's really selfless if you put the fundamentals in place for the next president to do his job, fighting poverty, eventually help our country.
Great. Thank you so much for coming, even on a holiday.
Thank you.
And I like that it was more of a debate rather than just me talking to you guys. So thank you both.
Thank you, Natasha.
We've been talking to Congressman Edgar Arisa and Sherwin Gatchalian about the pros and cons of amending the Constitution. I'm Natasha Gutierrez. Thank you for joining. You're getting close now.